It's another edition of Chill with Sean Dawn. But this episode is going to be a little different. This one is going to be particularly on when you guys should buy TVs, what kind of guide you need to buy TVs. This is going to be my 2023 edition. I'm going to make one of these every year, update it on any given time when it's like a prime time to buy TVs. So right now is obviously Black Friday weekend or Black Friday month, however you want to look at it. Nowadays with online shopping, they've expanded things for an entire month, which is amazing. So this is going to be your guide to understand how to buy TVs, what questions you need to ask or answer to purchase TVs for whichever location you're looking for, which technology will be best for your application, so on and so forth. So, so as I mentioned, one of the first questions you're going to want to ask is, what's your budget? Are you a baller or are you broke? If you're a baller, it doesn't matter what TV you get. You want the best of the best, and you want it right now, right? If you're kind of broke during this holiday season, I'm going to be able to provide some different alternatives for you. Maybe you don't get the 83-inch TV, but you can get a dope 65-inch TV that'll be just as nice, picture quality over size of a TV. And then you'll save up a little bit more to get that bigger TV on the back end. We're not here to be broke out here, all right? So we're going to save up. We're going to do this responsibly so we don't have crazy credit card debt on the back end. But a few other questions we want to ask is, when was the last time you purchased a new TV? Maybe you don't need the latest and greatest. You can just easily be good with what you have from last year's models, So that'll actually help you save at least $200 to $500. So that'll be a smart, wise investment for you. How bright is your room? Is your room super bright where there's a lot of sun coming in it? Do you have curtains where you can kind of dim some of that sunlight? That'll help decide what technology you go with, whether you go with OLED or a simple LED. LED will definitely be better in the sunlight circumstances, and OLED will be better for light controlled rooms. What size is your TV? What size is the room that you're going to be in? I'm asking these questions because in a living room, typically you'll want to go from 55 to 83 inches if it's OLED, or 55 to 85 inches if it's LED. But if it's in like an office area, if it's in a bedroom area, you're gonna want something a little bit smaller. So maybe a 42 inch up to a 55 inch. So important question to ask because that'll help you dictate what your budget will be for that. Um, Other questions you should ask is, how much of your time will be spent watching cable TV, if at all? I don't want to buy a Bentley if I'm only going to be just driving down the street to the corner store every day, right? If that makes sense. And that analogy means that if you're going to just buy a super nice TV just to watch cable TV, that doesn't make sense. I wouldn't advise paying $4,000 for a TV that's just going to be spent watching cable TV. TVs like that, you really want to stream. You want to get the most out of it by watching Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus, so on and so forth, or even Blu-ray DVDs if people still use those. Um, how much of your time is spent playing video games? I know there's little wars here and there. What TV is better for this year, for that? There's talks of some TVs being able to go up to 144 hertz. But there's a lot of people that have tested this. And number one, there's a lot of blackout going on. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But to the naked eye, you almost don't even notice the difference between 120 hertz versus 144 hertz, unless you're using a PC. And if you're having blackout concerns, then why go to 144 hertz in the first place when 120 hertz is great in itself? And the last one is, do you require Dolby Vision? And that's an important question to ask because that'll dictate what brands you go to. If Dolby Vision is something that you feel is the best of the best, you wouldn't want to go with Samsung, unfortunately, because they only go up to HDR10 plus. Still very good, but it's not quite Dolby Vision. It's time to purchase a new TV. Like I mentioned before, this is Black Friday weekend, Black Friday month. This is really the first time to really start looking at TVs and purchase one. The second in line will be around Super Bowl weekend, first week of February. Next up will be Memorial Day weekend. That's when a lot of the newer models are starting to work their way in. It's the LGs and Samsungs in particular, but their newer models will be in the stores, and the older models will start going on discount because of it. Nextly will be the third quarter. That's also the main time when Samsung and LG were already in play, Hisense, TCL, those big boys. But now Sony's starting to put their models out. So this is when the TV year really begins, the fall season. Or the last option is, hey man, I want a TV right now. It doesn't matter what time of the year. I'm living that thug life. I want something right now. Give me something. And for you, my friend, you can get it anytime you want. Gotta start with the best of the best, right? So I'm sure you've seen countless videos of these three models in particular. It's the LG G3, the Samsung S95C, and the Sony A95L. I've had the pleasure of testing all three of these TVs out, and traditionally I'm not a Samsung fan, but I will admit this TV is amazing, the S95C. And you'll see a video on the A95s shortly, so I'm not going to spoil what I feel about that, but the G3 is another great option as well. As you can see, the prices for these, the G3 right now is $2,300, Samsung $2,400, and the Sony, since it came out so late, it's $3,300. So honestly, I wouldn't spend that amount of money for the Sony, although it did win King of all TVs this year. That's a lot of money for a Sony TV. So if I were you, I'd lean more towards the G3 or the S95C. If you're looking for QD OLED, Quantum Dot OLED, Samsung will be your person, as long as you're not gaming. A lot of issues with the gaming, especially if you're trying to go up to 144 hertz. But I think if you dial it back down to 120 hertz, you'll be in good shape. As far as picture quality goes, I really love the G3. Love the Magic Remote. I know people are tired of it, but I love that feature where it's like the Wii. I really like that about the Nintendo Wii, so I like that part of it. And just the picture quality of it, it really felt like it was a 3D image popping out at you. In some instances, it almost looked better than the A95L. Can't even lie. So this slide is going to show you the runner-ups. This is going to be an amazing lineup for you guys. It'll give you about 90% of what you're actually going to get from the best of the best series, right? So the C3 is one step below the G3. But the G3 this year took phenomenal steps in the right direction because they put in their MLA technology, and with that, the screen is a lot brighter, and it's, in my opinion, a bit brighter than the Samsung S95C. And that can be very important with this QD OLED versus WOLED war, where LG is tried and true. You know, they're going to give you an OLED quality picture that is only matchable, right? It's hard to really beat that. Maybe their color doesn't pop as much as Samsung, but the picture quality is, to me, way better. It shows a lot more of the detail, it shows a lot more depth to it than a Samsung does. Samsung is a bit too smooth for me. But I will say this year's model of the S95C is amazing. I've mentioned it before, but I have to keep reiterating it because I was someone that was actually down on Samsung for a while just because of, like I mentioned, how smooth their picture looked, and it just looked cartoonish. Whereas the LG and the Sony, they're able to give you a clearer picture. They're able to give you a more deep picture. They're able to have more detail in the background of the scene and not just the character's face that's right in front of you. But I'm on a tangent right now. Let's focus on what we're talking about at hand. So the C3 is the first one for the LG. The S90C is the second one for the Samsung. And for the Sony, it's going to be A80L. Their numbering system is pretty weird nowadays. I don't know why they don't just do like A85L or whatnot, but that's their MO. But for these tiers, the pricing is a lot closer. If you want my opinion on this, I'd recommend the A80L as the standalone for these three. I just really like what Sony does with the LG OLED TVs, and it's hard to beat it, truthfully. And the pricing is so close that it's hard to really go wrong with any of these. But if you're diehard on just gaming and just not really movies and television, I'd say you can go with the C3 or the S90C, and you'll be just as happy. Small OLED TVs, there's two options. Samsung isn't really in this world yet, but Sony and LG are pretty much dominating it, right? So first we have the A90K. I have the pleasure of owning this TV, and it is tremendous. It really gives you basically everything the A95K does, but through LG's lens, right? So the colors maybe won't pop But if you dig into some of the settings, and I can reference my guy Quantum TV. He actually put me on to, if you adjust some of the color space settings and change it from auto to DCI in particular, it's very comparable to a QD OLED. It'll give you a much better pop for that. So this one for movies, for TV, and for gaming is a phenomenal TV. Next up is the LG C3 series. So both of these monitors actually come in 42 and 48, right? The A90K is a model from last year that had a carryover to this year. With these smaller models, Sony technically does 2 years for these. They have a 2-year shelf life, so by next year you'll be seeing a different model for that. For the LG series, this is their 2023 model. As much as I love the A90K, I love the A90K, it's hard to ignore that it's $300 more than the C3, which is this year's model. The A90K blew away the C2, but for this year it's probably a lot closer, and given the price differential, I'd say the C3 might be your best bet. And here's for the heavyweights. The heavyweight division is really 83 inches. This is more for your downstairs movie theater type of setting, or even if it's a big living room, right? You have a ton of different options. You have the A80L from Sony, you have Samsung's S90C, and you have 2 models from LG. And this is kind of what separates LG from the others, where LG is giving you their flagship in the 83-inch size. However, I do have to note that with the 83-inch G3, they do not have the MLA. So it's not going to be nearly as bright as the G3. It's not going to have that pop that you have. So if you're going to spend that much for it, I definitely recommend purchasing one of the other models for this circumstance. But I've already spoken on the A80L, S90C, and the C3. These are the second tiers for each respective company, and they're all beautiful machines. So you can't go wrong either way. But if I had to choose one, I'd say it would be either the A80L or the S90C. And given that the S90C is $1,000 less than the A80L, that would probably be your best bet for that one. So next is the LED world. I didn't really mention it in the last slides, but OLED TVs, as beautiful as they are, as great as the picture quality is, one thing they struggle in is direct sunlight. One thing they struggle in is rooms that are super bright, especially during the daytime. So you have to understand, okay, will I be watching this TV a lot at night because I'm working during the day, or I'm moving around during the day, so it doesn't really matter? Or if I do plan on watching this a lot during the daytime. If you do plan on watching it a lot during the daytime, I wouldn't recommend OLED. As beautiful as they are, they're really more so light control room TVs, movie theater room TVs, bedroom TVs, office TVs. Not necessarily living rooms where there's a lot of direct sunlight, where there's a lot of sun coming in, because that'll diminish the picture. That'll actually make those deep blacks look more of a darkish gray, and that's not what we're looking for from an OLED. However, on the flip side of that, LED really specializes in it, and this is their strong suit because they can get so much brighter than OLEDs, right? And with that, I have a few different options for you over here. So mini LEDs is going to be your best option for this. It's going to be the closest thing to OLED because of all the dimming zones within these TVs that are helping turn off some of these pixels and make them as close to perfect black as possible, and reducing the level of blooming that you would normally experience from a TV that doesn't have full array local dimming or any sort of dimming zones in particular. So we have 2 sections for this. I'm sure you guys already know these names, TCL and Hisense. These are really the heavy hitters for budget TVs. I gotta say, these are 2 amazing TVs. Now, I will say they don't get the same level of quality maybe as a Sony and a Samsung, but how much money you're spending, how much money you're saving, you're almost saving half if you were to go with one of these 2 options that are very comparable. It's hard to argue against it. So for TCL, their best of the best would be the QM8, and the Hisense would be the U8K. And these are both under $1,000 for Black Friday. It's hard to beat that. If you have a little bit more money in your pocket and you're like, nah, I want to make sure I get something from the big 3, I'd recommend the Sony X93L or the Samsung Q90C. These are all 4K TVs. We're not really going to discuss 8K TVs in this video, although I own an 8K TV and I would advocate for it if it was a bit cheaper. As you all know, we don't have any 8K content out, so it's hard to really push someone to spend $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 for a TV when it's just going to enhance 4K. So I'd really rather you spend a bit more money for a really good quality LED TV versus spending all that money for an 8K TV. But all great options. If I had to choose one, I'd say it'd be the X93L. If I have a bit more money in my pocket, if I wanted to save, I like the accuracy of the TCL, so the QM8 would be my second choice. Heavyweight division for the mini LED TVs now. 85 inches, I will say I've owned a few 85-inch TVs, and it's hard to duplicate the experience you get with that. Right, it's hard. It's very fun. It's enjoyable. You get so immersed in the picture. Playing video games on it is ridiculous, especially if you have a sound system. It almost feels like you're there. But the lineup for this one, you have 4 different options that I listed. Hisense is the UX, so this is their flagship TV. I have yet to review it. It's one step above the U8K, but here's the real deal, Holyfield. Sony's X93L. This is a carryover from last year's X95K. And as a lot of people know, the 85-inch TVs seem to have better picture quality than the 65 and 75-inch versions. So it would definitely be a good idea to look into that one. For $3,500, that's not too bad for that quality of a TV. Next up is the Samsung 85-inch QN90C. Great pick. Look, the price is very competitive. I'm not even mad at it. And lastly is TCL's QM8. Another great deal, $2,000. It's way better than all the other deals. If you're on a budget and you want a real big TV, that would be the one I'd go with. Next slide, let's do this. And lastly will be the real big boys. So I mentioned before, if you're a baller, this is the section you was waiting for, right? If you want a TV that you can put in a home theater room, and you have the space for it, number one. So we don't want nobody that's sitting 6 feet away from the TV in front of a 98-inch, 100-inch TV. Come on, guys, relax. This is for if you can at least be about 10 feet back from the screen. So we don't want anyone burning their eyes out. But we have 3 options here. 3 options that are under $10,000. First one would be the Sony's new X90L. Second would be TCL's QM8, and third would be Samsung's 98-inch Q80C. All good options. Now, if you're a baller, it doesn't really matter what the price is. Since that is the case, I'd recommend the Sony. I'm a huge Sony fan. The quality that they give you is just hard to really ignore it. But I'd definitely rock with the Sony. But alright, YouTube, this is basically the conclusion of my video. I know it's a bit longer than the last video I put out, but I wanted to make sure I just talk through all this, and I really just want to make this a conversational YouTube page. It's not for me to just make money on, it's for me to share this information that I have and to help make you guys a bit more intelligent on the TV buying process, a bit more prepared. So when you're going into these stores, these vultures aren't just telling you a bunch of jargon and telling you what you want to hear. So you buy a $5,000 TV when you could easily just have bought a $2,500 TV or a $1,000 TV for that matter. So really I'm going to give you a lot of game on this channel. So just stay tuned. If you need to get a notepad and a pen, do so. But I'm here to help you out, guys. So until next time, peace.